Today, something very unexpected just happened, and it might change the direction of this entire war because just when the world was preparing for a major escalation, Donald Trump made a sudden move. He delayed the planned strikes on Iran's power plants again, yes. Again, and this is not the first time, and that is exactly what makes this situation even more confusing, because on one side there is strong aggressive messaging, and on the other side there are repeated delays, and now the question is simple. Is this a move toward peace, or is this just a strategic pause before something much bigger and more dangerous happens? Because according to reports, the strikes have now been postponed for about 10 days, pushing the decision further into early April, and Trump has claimed that the talks with Iran are going very well, but here is where things start to get complicated, because Iran has not fully agreed to the terms, and some officials are calling the proposal unfair, which means there is still a major gap between both sides, and when there is a gap like this, the risk of sudden escalation always remains high because negotiations can fail at any moment, and if they do, the response is usually faster and more intense than before, and this is exactly why markets and global leaders are watching every signal very carefully, because even a small change in tone can indicate what might happen next, and right now the signals are mixed, confusing, and unpredictable, and that is dangerous because uncertainty creates fear, and fear drives reactions, and those reactions can turn into real-world consequences very quickly. And while all of this is happening behind the scenes, military preparations have not stopped. In fact, they are continuing quietly, because delaying a strike does not mean canceling it. It simply means waiting, and in strategic terms, waiting can sometimes be more powerful than acting immediately because it creates pressure on the other side, forcing them to respond or make concessions, and this is where the psychological aspect of this conflict becomes very important, because this is not just about weapons or targets, it is about leverage, control, and timing, and right now timing is everything, because if talks succeed, this could lead to a temporary stabilization, reducing tensions and calming markets, but if talks fail, the delayed strike could come back even stronger with more intensity and more consequences, and that is why experts are saying this 10-day window is extremely critical, because it could decide whether this situation moves toward peace or toward a larger conflict, and at the same time the global impact of this uncertainty is already being felt, because energy markets are reacting, investors are cautious, and governments are preparing for multiple scenarios, especially when it comes to oil and gas supply, because any strike on Iran's energy infrastructure would directly affect global supply chains, and that would lead to price spikes, inflation, and economic pressure across multiple regions, including the United States, Europe, and Asia, and this is why the Strait of Hormuz continues to be one of the most sensitive points in this entire situation, because a large portion of the world's oil passes through this narrow route, and any disruption there could instantly affect global markets and create a shock that spreads far beyond the Middle East. And this is also why the United States is being extremely careful with its decisions, because the goal is not just to win a conflict, but to control the consequences of that conflict, and controlling consequences is often harder than taking action itself. And this is where diplomacy and strategy start to overlap, because sometimes delaying a strike is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of calculation, a way to buy time, gather more information, and position yourself for a better outcome. But at the same time, delays also carry risks, because they can be misinterpreted by the other side, leading to unexpected responses, and this is why communication becomes critical during such moments, because clear signals can prevent misunderstandings, while unclear signals can increase tension, and right now the signals are anything but clear, because public statements suggest progress, while underlying actions suggest preparation, and this contradiction is what keeps the entire situation unstable and unpredictable. And as the world watches this unfold, the big question remains: what happens next? Will the talks actually lead to a deal, or will this delay simply push the conflict to a later date with even higher stakes and more intense consequences? Because history has shown that temporary pauses in conflicts often do not end them, they just shift the timeline, and sometimes when conflicts return, they come back stronger and more destructive than before. And that is why this moment is so important, because it is not just about what is happening right now, it is about what could happen in the next few days, and how those events could shape the future of global stability, energy security, and economic balance. And until a clear outcome emerges, the world remains in a state of Waiting, watching every move, every statement, and every signal, because in situations like this, the smallest detail can change everything, and right now, one decision, one agreement, or one failure could define the next chapter of this conflict and possibly impact millions of lives across the world.